If you haven't read all 400 pages of Emily Bronte's classic novel, I'm going to save you some time. And if you have read it, brace yourself, because this is not the Wuthering Heights you think it is. I'm Antoinette, and this is Culture Alchemy, where we turn pop culture into insight. So, here are the 5 things you need to know before you hit the theater. Let's start here, because this isn't the Wuthering Heights as written. It's Emerald Fennell's personalized, stylized interpretation of how the book felt to her. And she talked about reading this book when she was 14 years old and being obsessed with it. And then she wanted to make the version she imagined in her head. And that's very clear. She's not making Wuthering Heights. She's making Wuthering Heights, hence the quotations around the title. And you feel that almost immediately because there are a lot of characters that are missing and the narrative structure is severely altered. And then the narrator of the book, Lockwood, totally gone. Kathy's brother, Hindley, also gone. And the entire half of the second book is just completely not here. So this is basically Wuthering Heights, but Emerald's version. And that matters because this film isn't about what the book does structurally. It's about what the book did for Emerald Fennell emotionally. And if you understand that, everything else makes a lot more sense. The trailer sold us an epic love story, kisses in the rain, and a Valentine's Day release. But this story, at its core, it's about obsession. It's about revenge and emotional annihilation. And that mismatch creates tension. So it's kind of like Emerald wrote a check that the film doesn't cash. And you could feel it in the theater. People were groaning and laughing all around me, and it's not a comedy. So when you expect romance and vengeance, you don't know what to make of it, and that's a large part of the conversation. Now, this is where things get interesting because in the novel, Heathcliff's stepbrother, Kathy's brother, Hindley, tortures him. I mean, Heathcliff is abused, humiliated. He's socially othered. And that breeds a lot of resentment. It also speaks to generational trauma. And Bronte does such a great job of providing that, psychological scaffolding, if you will. But the film, it kind of compresses that. And for example, Hindley doesn't even exist. It's the father, Earnshaw, that starts to absorb that cruelty. And the second generation arc is completely gone too. So that extended cycle of abuse is totally erased. And here's the issue with that. When you compress the trauma, you flatten the monster. And without context, Heathcliff isn't really tragic. He's just kind of moody. And that changes the moral architecture of the story. I mean, we all know hurt people, but the story has to show us the hurt. Let's talk casting because everyone else is. Margot Robbie is 35, and we're being asked to believe she's in the early stages of a teenage first love obsession. And in the novel, Kathy dies at 18. So even if we're generous and we age her up to like her early 20s in the film, that shift in age changes the emotional stakes. And when you shift the age, you shift the innocence. So Kathy's chaos in the book feels adolescent. It's impulsive, it's status hungry, it's emotionally extreme. So when an older actor embodies that same behavior, it kind of reads less like immaturity and more like dysfunction. And then there's Heathcliff. Okay, in the book, he's repeatedly described as dark-skinned, a gypsy, black eyes, an outsider. His otherness is central to the story. It's about race and it's about class and it's about I don't know, Victorian anxiety around social mobility. So when you make that character white, the class part remains, but the racial tension kind of evaporates. And here's another thing that I find really fascinating about this choice. In softening Heathcliff and making him more noble, more romantic, someone else has to absorb that cruelty. And I mentioned earlier that his father is one person, but in this version, it becomes Nellie, the servant, who is not as vindictive in the actual book. So when you romanticize the monster, you have to relocate the villain. Now, we all walked in expecting Saltburn level depravity. I mean, many of those scenes live rent free in my head. The unhinged eroticism, maybe a little bit of a grave scandal. Instead, we got a highly stylized, suggestive, kink light, R rated movie with zero nudity. And that's fine, but the thing is, this movie kind of flirts with the provocation, but doesn't commit. And at times, it kind of feels like Fennell is edging the audience, building towards something kind of saucy, and then just nothing happens. To quote the entertainment journalist Eliza Brooke, if you're going to market two freaks in love, show me two freaks in love. Because the source material, it's far darker and more psychologically destabilizing than what we get here. So then the question that I had is, did the eroticism we see serve the story or the trailer? I also think there's something really interesting happening socially here with this movie. There were women laughing through the sex scenes, people groaning, people bonding kind of over what the hell is this? And there's actual research showing that shared negativity affect bonds people faster than shared admiration. Hate watching kind of creates intimacy. And I am always reminded of Michael Scott from The Office, who he said it best when he said, sometimes what brings the kids together is hating the lunch lady. And I genuinely think that there are people who are going to see this now to hate watch this film. And that might be part of its success. So where do I land? I mean, look, as a faithful adaptation of Bronte's novel, this loses the essence of it. But as Emerald Fennell's personal fever dream, I'm actually going to give it like a 7 out of 10 because visually it was stunning and the Charlie XCX soundtrack was great. The costumes, the hair, decor, amazing, incredible, award-winning. And seeing it with other people in the theater and hearing their reactions easily helped me bump this movie up from a 6.5 to a 7 rating. But that's what I think. Over to you. What did you think? For those of you who have seen it, please drop your rating in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. And also, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe for more pop culture breakdowns. And until next time, alchemists, stay curious.